Edvard Munch's painting, The Scream, operates in the register of the theology of the cross, in its embrace of pain and suffering. One of the characteristics of modern art that I think is distinctive is its focus on pain and suffering. It's what often alienates us as viewers. It's too dark, there's too much evil, there's too much pain and suffering and torment. And we want art that looks cheery and makes us feel good about ourselves and about the world, a world that we prefer, if we're honest with ourselves, we prefer a Thomas Kinkade painting than Edvard Munch's The Scream, because it projects a world that is harmless. It projects also a self that is not too bad. And the new creation, or Eden, is really just a weekend in the country. But that's not the way the world works. And Edvard Munch said, art comes from both joy and pain. And then he said, but mostly from pain. And I think that's, if we're real with ourselves, we know that most of our life suffers from pain. And creative work comes out of suffering. And it's only in that place of suffering that God's grace comes to us anyway. And so art can remind us of who we are, that we're sinners, that we're in desperate need of a Savior, that the world isn't the way it should be. And painting in general, and I think a lot of works of modern art give us hope that there is a desire and a belief that there is a day after, that there is something in the future, that the world actually can be what we hoped it could be. Taking painting seriously can help us take other art forms seriously, and for us to be more patient with the fact that art, maybe true art, high art, doesn't reveal its meaning immediately. It's a cultural practice that requires some work. And like any cultural practice, particularly a high cultural practice, it requires effort. And it also requires a viewer, a listener, a reader who is willing to suspend judgment, to allow the work and the meaning to unfold over time, and to even allow the meaning to change over time. We are Christians, we are North American evangelicals. We are impatient. We want the meaning right now. We want the elevator speech. We want to check off the box, and we don't want a film that's ambiguous. We don't want a film that doesn't leave us exactly where we want to be left, whether it's to be offended or to be encouraged. And so a work of art, whether it's a film or a painting or a piece of music or a poem or a novel that leaves us ambivalent, that leaves us not knowing exactly how we're feeling, is actually doing the work of helping us feel more deeply. It's helping us to be more human and to understand the depth and breadth of our human emotional range. In St. Paul's sermon on Mars Hill, Paul has some time, and he goes to the museum, and he goes and looks at these altars dedicated to various gods, and he happens across an altar that's dedicated to the unknown God. And he has a choice to make. He can use it in his sermon illustration, and he can use it as an example of what's bad in the culture. This is a pagan culture. They're so lost that they don't even know all the gods, and so they pathetically make a work of art and dedicate it to this God they don't even know. Or he could do something else. He could say, that artist that made that work was reaching for something, and that artist doesn't know the name of that God, but believes that God to be there. And that's what Paul does. And Paul gives the name. He says, I will give you the name of that God that your artists and your poets have yearned for, and know that's out there, but don't know the name. And this is the God who is Jesus Christ. And so Paul goes and names that name. Paul is not denigrating the work. Paul is meeting the work at meeting the work where the artist is, and that is searching and yearning and intuiting. And I think that's an important model for us to keep in mind, that people are searching, and artists in particular are searching. They're searching for meaning, they're searching for experience, and they are bumping up against something that they're trying to assimilate, trying to take seriously. And we have that. We have the name. We have the answer for them. The goal is to do it in a creative, loving way that takes seriously those altars, that takes seriously the work of art as a work of art and not just as a means of evangelism, but in the means of loving that work of art by bringing the beauty of that and the significance of that work of art out. We are, in fact, naming that work for that artist.